Mike. Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love.
Welcome to episode 1026 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery, a fiercely independent craft brewery who believes in supporting communities, good times, and brewing amazing beer. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. StickerU.com. Create custom stickers, labels, tattoos, and decals for your home and your business. Palma Pasta. Enjoy the taste of fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees from Palma Pasta in Mississauga and Oakville. Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. And Canna Cabana. The lowest prices on cannabis. Guaranteed. Over 100 stores across the country. Learn more at cannacabana.com. Joining me this week, making his Toronto Mic debut, is CHFI's Darryl Henry. Welcome, Darryl.
So nice to be here, Mike. I just want to say it's an honor to be the 1,026th most interesting person in your Rolodex. I won't lie, I was hoping to get under the 1,000 threshold, like something in the 900s, but I understand, and 1,026.
It could be worse.
It could be much worse.
You could be the next guest, right?
That's right.
Spider Jones is on tomorrow.
Oh, I love Spider.
And he's got to say the same joke, except he's got to say he's the 1,027th.
I'm sure you get that all the time. Yeah.
I think I was getting that joke like at around 250 the people start. I'm like, oh my goodness. But my friend, you have two first names. Is this a real name or is this a radio name?
This is not a
real
radio.
name.
No, it's a real name.
It's a
Are
real
you kidding?
name.
I wouldn't pick Henry. Henry I was Henhead in school.
Oh, no.
Or Henry. I got all, Henry is, if I was going to pick a fake, it would be like Mike Thomas.
Right.
Richard Roberts. It'd be those two first
Well, Darryl
names.
Henry's a good name. I feel that's a good
God
radio
bless
name.
you.
Am I crazy? I don't know. Daryl Henry.
Little.
It sounds like it's like that's a middle name, Henry. Or Darryl Henry Smorgasbord or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's just my stupid name. Yeah.
I think it was Tish Easton who said, Mike, you should have Darryl Henry on the program.
Oh, God bless Tish. I love Tish.
I think it's mutual. She says nice things about you.
Yeah, Tish actually got me into CHFI. She told me about the job opening. I was between gigs, as we call it. Other people call it unemployed. And she called me up right away and said, "There's going to be an opening in weekend swing." And it's like, "Oh, great."
She's like an angel.
She was. She saved my bacon. I was only out of a job for 6 months, which isn't bad at all. And I got to stay in Toronto, which was good.
Okay, we're going to cover all this.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned we unemployed. Between gigs, that means unemployed. I always think if I see a LinkedIn update that says consultant, suddenly if you've become a consultant, that's code for between gigs, which is code for I'm out of a job and I need one.
Yeah, and couldn't find a job actually on the air. So I've become a consultant. Right. That's part of that.
I think anyone can be a consultant, I think.
Those who can't do it.
So, right off the top, you mentioned to me via email Darryl Henry. Now that I know that's your real name, a la Roger Ashby, no fake name required. You're from this neck of the woods, right? Is it Alderwood you're from?
Yep. So just a little bit further west of where you are, right here.
Right.
Yeah. I grew up there, born and raised on Dunning Crescent, right behind the Alderwood, like there'd be a Etobicoke Creek, and it's a great place growing up. I loved it here, although it was 2 buses to get to Kipling Subway, and it took about an hour and a half to get into downtown to go play pinball, or when I was older, going to Ryerson. So It was a bit of a trek, but it's a great area, and the Lakeshore has always been a fun spot too, which is close to where you are here.
So when I think of Alderwood, I think of Il Paisano.
Il Paisano, yes,
okay,
still there.
Yeah, no, it's still great too.
Yeah, Well, in the old days, I mean, the pepperonis would sort of shrivel up and turn into little bowls of grease.
Right.
But they fixed that, and it's a pretty solid pie now.
That's the best part. They just don't stop fixing things.
That's right.
But Alderwood, there's now, my wife tells me that if you want a good bagel, Kettleman's there's a Kettleman's there now by there's a Farm Boy and a Kettleman's. All this is going on. I want to say, get my right streets here, Browns Line and Horner?
Yeah,
okay.
That's probably right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I speak Alderwood. Here I go. Here. Alderwood's one of those neighborhoods where I feel like most of Toronto doesn't quite know where Alderwood is. Like there's some neighborhoods in Toronto that get high, like good PR. Like people just know these neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Like if I said everyone knows Mimico.
Yeah.
But like now we're in New Toronto. How many Torontonians know there's a New Toronto? Like, and how many know there's an Alderwood?
It sort of mimics my career in many ways. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, the career. Before we get you, because I want to get you, I guess I have a tiny clip of you on Easy Rock, but I want to get you into radio. But if you take us back to your childhood days in Alderwood, like what is it? What possessed you to get into this profession? Like what made you want to be in radio?
Well, I mean, I grew up in the golden age of top 40 radio in Toronto. So I was listening to Shotgun Tom Rivers and Diamond Jim Brady and all those, Keith Rich on CKEY. And we all had our transistor radios, listening to these great disc jockeys. So I always loved listening to the radio. But believe it or not, I wanted to get into television production because this is a true story.
Yeah.
I got lucky once with a pair of gold tickets to the Leafs at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Wow.
My sister and I. And we went down there, and there was this guy sitting near us with his camera, and he was a swivel camera, so he'd go back and forth following the play-by-play. And I said, I was probably 10, and I said to my sister, that's what I want to do. So that was my goal in life, was to be the cameraman at Hockey Night in Canada at Maple Leaf Gardens. So then, fast forward, I'm in high school, and I hear that Ryerson had, they say the best radio and TV program in the country or whatever. So I set my sights on going to Ryerson to achieve that goal.
So you kind of failed, right?
I did.
You never did. You never had any. Did you ever get to operate one of those big swivel cameras?
Not at a hockey game, no. But second year of Ryerson was all television, so we're in studio and stuff. But the first year was all radio, no TV at all. And had a great professor. This is probably a common story for a lot of people. His name's Jerry Good. Hey, Jerry.
And he's a good professor.
He was a very good professor indeed. And he was the father, as it turns out, the father of modern AC, adult contemporary radio in Canada. Smart guy. And I'd always loved listening to the radio. I loved the Wolfman Jack character in American Graffiti.
Yes, me too.
He turned me on to a career. Like he really set my sights on something different than television production, which I found out later was really boring anyway. Okay,
well, listen, before you proceed any further, I just want to let you know that a very recent episode of Toronto Mike features Scott Carpenter. Do you know this name?
Yeah, of course.
Now, it's not his real name, by the way. So Darryl Henry might be a real name, but Scott Carpenter is definitely not a real name. He's like a Patrick Bergen or something. Not
really.
Yeah, he's a Pat Bergen.
At least he didn't go for the two first names,
Like Jay Michaels?
Yeah. Hey, Mad Dog, how you doing?
He's got a fake name on a fake name. So that's like another dimension.
That's right.
Inception here. Okay, so and whenever he wants to not class it up, but like become more mature, he drops that Mad Dog part. Like it's just, I'm just Jay Michaels right now because it's serious talk over here.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
All right. Shout out to Jay Michaels, who's in Montreal right now, and that's probably where you get better bagels and Kettleman's. But if you're in Toronto and you want to get something that's the best we can do, that would be the Kettleman's Montreal style bagels. They're not a sponsor. I just wanted to shout them out because we talked Alderwood off the top. What was I saying there?
About Scott.
It's Scott, right?
Yeah.
There's an episode of Toronto Mike with Scott, and he talks a lot about Wolfman Jack, and he did the whole cruiser thing because he really tapped into that American Graffiti thing that got you and then got me when I'd watch it years later on Late Great Movies on City TV. I love that whole cruiser scene 50s vibe.
Oh yeah, and I mean he was the focal point, kind of the glue that held that whole community of teenagers together, driving around, cruising the boulevard. And I've got the soundtrack, was one of the first albums I ever bought, and some of the songs have the Wolfman Jack clips on them. And oh yeah, I mean that was pure magic. So
can you do an impression of Wolfman Jack?
Who's this on the Wolfman telephone? The Secret Agents Bias Group? No, the Wolfman telephone. Who is this, man? The Secret Agents. Yeah, that was one of the things from the movie.
Well, that's pretty good.
Well, everybody, like, if you wanted to be a disc jockey, you tried to sound like that guy. Who could sound like that guy, though?
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so you basically did a pivot, I guess, and at Ryerson you said, hey, maybe I'm not going to be the camera swivel guy at Hockey Night in Canada. Maybe I'm going to be a radio guy.
Yeah, that was thanks to Jerry Good. And also thanks to the fact that when we did television in second year, it was just so deathly boring. And also, you rely on too many people in television. You can have you're the director of this great production you've written and produced, and then somebody's hung over from too many quarts at the Imperial the night before, and he's the sound guy, and he forgets to turn the mics on, and you got to do it all over again. And I thought, no, radio, it's just you, and pretty much. It's live. You don't have to wait around, and it's fun. Yeah, so
that's a good point. That you can have this idea or whatever, and then you can kind of produce it all, and you can touch the knobs and the pods and the faders. You can do all the engineering stuff, but you could also be the guy spitting into the microphone. You can be completely independent on the radio. And you're right, on television, you require so many other bodies to make it happen.
And some of them are dumb or hungover, and they ruin it. So, the radio, that part of radio really appealed to me too.
So, what's the first station where your voice could be heard on the air?
880 CKLQ in Brandon, Manitoba. Q Country Radio. I knew nothing about country music. My boss said, well, you know what? You just pick the records out of the wall, and you'll pick and find your favorites. And that was my first, 1984, the fall of 84. I hooked the U-Haul up to my 74 Chevy Impala and drove up through the States, through the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and lost a muffler in Ashland, Wisconsin, and settled in just before Halloween, and it was probably minus 35 in Brandon, Manitoba, and stayed there for 2 winters. That's how you measure time on the prairies, and learned all of it, because Ryerson didn't really teach you how to be a disc jockey.
Okay.
We always used to joke afterwards that Ryerson taught you how to be a middle manager at CBC. It gave you this overview of everything, but the actual specific nuts and bolts of, say, being an announcer weren't really covered that much.
You had to get your hands dirty by actually going to, and this is a story I hear often, which is like, get out of the big city and go to a smaller market like Brandon, and then do a bunch of stuff, get your hands dirty and put in your reps, and then get better.
Absolutely, and that's the one and only time I dropped the F-bomb live on the air, which was on the all-night show, and I called my program director, Steve Antea, and I said, Steve, I just said the F word. And he went, it's like 3 a.m.
Right.
Did anybody call?
Right.
And I said, nope. And he goes, never mind, don't worry about it. Don't do it again. And that was it. So, yeah, you couldn't get away with that here at this level, but there, all nights in Brandon, you could, your boss could let it go.
Those who would be up to hear it aren't going to complain.
Well, no, that's very true.
It's not like you're in the car, in the station wagon with the kids or whatever.
Yeah, no. And that was actually because I had, I remember it well. It was...
what's the context of his
F-bomb? Let me tell you. Let me tell you, Mike. So
I'm very excited.
We're playing records back then, and it's a 45, and it's Conway Twitty, tight-fitting jeans. And I'm talking it up, and I look over, because it sounds a little funny, and I realize I've put it on 78 and not 45. And I went, fuck.
You can swear on this show.
Yeah, well,
this isn't CHFI.
It's still it's a habit. You don't, around a live.
You don't want to slip on the real mic.
No. So, and I realized I hadn't turned the mic off, and then I did something terrible. I went and stopped the logger tape and backed it up to hear it. That's highly illegal, and we could have lost our license.
Okay, that's a CRTC thing,
That's
right?
a CRTC thing.
You got to be recording all this stuff, so if someone does complain, they can hear it, right?
Yeah, pull the tapes and listen. And
it could have been like Watergate. There's missing. There's a 30 seconds missing from this. Like Trump's got like 47 hours missing or something from his tapes.
Well, I had to listen to it to see if I'd actually done it, and sure enough, I had. Wow. And that's when I called Steve, and that's when he said, "Just don't do it again."
And you haven't done that again.
Thank goodness, no. That would be a bad thing to do on your last day of work, as the old joke goes.
Right. There's it's a famous story in my circles, I guess, for my age group, that Martin Streak dropped an F-bomb intentionally during the Thursday 30 because I guess he was supposed to do, I'm trying to remember which band it was. I want to say Tool, but it could have been Nine Inch Nails. It's one of those two bands where he was supposed to do something there and it changed. And he said, like, Pete Fowler was his co-host, who's now with the OPP, by the way. And he like just drops a huge F-bomb. And the program director at CFOI at the time, Stu Myers, sent a memo to everybody, because I got a copy of the memo. So I have the audio, which I dropped on episode 1021, by the way. And then I got the memo, and it was basically like, you know, this is a privilege to be on these airwaves, and it's not unacceptable. But yeah, this was like I don't know what time the Thursday 30 was, 8 p.m. or something, but it was like an 8 p.m. F-bomb on CFY in the mid-90s, I'd say.
One of my favorite, if we're going to just, as an aside with with foul language, we were doing a live full Saturday remote from Sherway Gardens, and it was a fundraiser for World Vision, I think.
Okay.
And we had Fred Penner on the phone.
Who's an FOTM like you are now.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, then maybe I shouldn't tell the story.
No, please do. He's not listening. I don't
All right.
think.
So
he's in Winnipeg. Right?
My producer on site is Christina. She's saying, okay, we've got Fred, and I hear that. I go, okay, good. All right, we're going to go to Fred Penner now as we were raising money for World Vision Canada. How you doing, Fred? There's dead air. I said, Fred, are you there? Then all we hear is, oh, God, shit. And I look over at Christina, and she's got the same look I have, which is the look of what just happened. And then it was, oh well, we'll get to Fred later. We never got to Fred later.
That's a great, you know what, shout out to Fred Penner, keeping it real there. I love the fact that when he doesn't think he's on the air, that's the Fred Penner. It's a good old shit bomb there.
Yeah, it was a big one. Yeah, and that was fun. That was a fun moment.
But you think of it, because he's a children's entertainer. You think they'd really treat. I know he's on the phone, but they'd treat anything like it's live and hot, or hot as it's like it's a live mic or whatever.
Exactly.
That's pretty risky for a
well,
children's
we were worried
entertainer.
that maybe it was something severe, like he was in a car accident or something, but apparently not. It was just
no,
one
he's
of those
good.
things. Yeah, good to know.
I should have wore my I have a what's he called, Fred head T-shirt, the silhouette of Fred Penner with his pork pie hat. Proud Fred head over here. So that's a great story you told there.
Very nice.
Okay, so you're in Brandon. That's home of the Wheat Kings.
Yes, it was, and they were terrible the 2 years I was there. I just missed what's his name's year, Ray Ferraro. I think he scored 98 goals or something, and I got there just after, and they were terrible. But it was fun. I loved living there. I was back there. I still have.
But
friends
only 2
there.
winters.
2? Well, only. Only. Well, no.
Hey, is it true? Is it the Paris of the Prairies? What do you say?
I would say emphatically no. It's not. It's not.
Is there a Paris of the Prairies?
Well, I thought that was Saskatoon.
Oh, maybe you're right. You know what? Because I'm thinking of the Tragically Hip song.
Great song. Yeah.
Sundown in the Paris of the Prairies.
No, I don't think Brandon's even the Paris of Manitoba, to be quite honest with you. But it is the second biggest city in Manitoba. 50,000 people surrounded by 18 million miles of wheat.
So 50,000 does get you second place, or was that just is that a joke? Is that real?
What's that? Where?
Like okay, so Winnipeg is obviously the biggest city.
No, 50,000 is the second biggest city in Manitoba.
That's amazing.
That's what I thought. Yeah, no, it was
I think
quite
Toronto's
a culture
got more
shock.
than 50,000 people, I think. Alderwood does.
Yeah, probably.
For sure.
Yeah. So, no, that was two interesting years. I really had a good time.
So what happens after your tour of duty in Brandon, Manitoba?
Well, so I couldn't take another winter. I mean, the wind chill was honestly minus 60 one night, and my roommate's eyes froze shut when we were shoveling the driveway. So I had to get back east. So I you realize you're 2 years out of college, and you've been in a small station in a small market. You're not going to go to Toronto. So you put tapes together and you send them to medium-sized places. So I sent them to London, Kitchener, St. Catharines, Niagara, and got a nibble from a brand new station was just launching, HTZ-FM in St. Catharines. It had been a country station.
Wow.
Golden Horseshoe Country, but they were going to flip to rock.
Yeah.
And they had one slot to fill, the all-night show. And so I got it, and I was so excited. It was a union shop. I was going to be making $15,000 a year.
Okay, what did you make in Brandon?
Oh, about $700 a month. So do the math. I was making quite an upgrade. 700, yeah. It was worse than when you were a student.
And you're a short drive from the Big Smoke.
Yeah, so I was coming closer to home. I was going to be playing rock and roll.
Yeah.
And it was a union shop where I was making what I thought was a lot of money. And this is 1986.
Yeah.
And that was, so we launched HTZ-FM, and it's still rocking today. The White House of Rock.
Let's talk about the White House of Rock.
Yes.
Because Paul Morris,
yeah.
not the guy who says goal scored by number 93,
No.
Doug Gilmore.
That's
That is
right.
a different Paul Morris. But Paulie Morris, whose daughter is in media
Siobhan.
now, Siobhan Morris, and she's an
Right.
FOTM as well. But
I
Paul
remember when
Morris,
she was knee-high to a grasshopper.
she's not much taller now, I don't
That's
think.
true. Yeah.
I can make that joke. She's a lovely person and very
Yes.
good at her job. But
Very.
yeah, she's with CTV, I believe. And so tell me what it was like those early days of at the White House of Rock in St. Catharines.
Well, it was great. We were flying by the seat of our pants because our PD, it was his first shot at it. Eric Samuels, great guy, and Paul. He had been at Chum FM, and so we were all new. And I remember those. We didn't have music was still done by hand, and Paul would have us type up the music sheets, and so it was that first summer was pretty bonkers, and it was about a year in that we hired Scruff Connors, and then that was a game changer. And do we have 3 or 4 hours? I could tell you the stories, but he was an incredible guy to work with, a genius, and that put the station on the map. It was a big deal. It still is.
He comes up often on this program. He came up very recently, and in a moment I'll remember who the hell I was talking to about it. But the Scruff Connors stories are absolutely legendary.
Oh yeah, and they're true. He was in Philadelphia, right? He left Q, and he got a job doing mornings at WYSP in Philly, which was a big rock station at the time.
Right.
But had the unfortunate turn of events to be that became the first station to simulcast Howard Stern.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the great Scruff Connors was out of a job, and so we think, he probably reached out to his good friend Gary Slate, and Gary said, "Well, I've got this rock station I've just flipped in St. Catharines. It was a standard station,
Right.
And sure enough, next thing we know, we hear that Scruff Connors is coming. He arrived with just the clothes on his back. We thought he was kidding, but no. Then he set up a tent on the front lawn of the White House.
Wow.
And next thing you know, because he was so revered and loved, the good listenership would come out, and he had a hot tub there. He had a manicurist and a pedicure.
Wow.
It was. I've never seen anything like.
So that recent ep where we talked Scruff, Bruce Barker was on, and Barks had some Scruff stories. Yeah, from 640, I think they worked together, maybe elsewhere too. But there was that Mojo.
Bruce Barker was ahead of me on your Rolodex. Mike, come on now. Just kidding. So Scruff, you name it. Let me dial up a couple of Scruff stories.
Yeah,
so,
please.
One day, he did a New Kids on the Block. You heard that story?
Yeah, that reminds me of the watch the Super Bowl in Miami, and I guess there's a Miami,
Manitoba.
yeah, right.
So he did that. The New Kids, he was hyping that. That's when they were the biggest thing on the planet.
Right.
And
They were
so the
hanging
day
tough.
of the arrival of the New Kids, because I guess they were playing in Toronto, and so it sort of made sense that it was possible that the New Kids were coming to Hits FM in St. Catharines for a chat with Scruff. Well, we had the front lawn was loaded, hundreds of screaming teenage girls.
Wow.
And then the limo pulls up, and it's a bunch of women with their newborn babies.
the new kids.
And they're the New Kids on the Block. And these 14-year-old girls went from ecstatic and excited to maniacally. One of them yelled, "We know where you live, Scruff. Your ass is grass." I remember I'm looking out the window going,
What are they
what
gonna
is
do to
going
him?
on? So I remember the time that we were right at near Ridley College, just across the bridge. Was Ridley College, very fancy private school in St. Catharines. Okay. And one day, I'm prepping because I was doing middays, so I'm prepping. I look out the window, and it's like the Ridley College marching band. It's like 100 high school students in the full, epaulettes and the costumes and the hats and everything else is coming across the Burgoyne Bridge. And I'm going, what is going on? And then I hear Scruff saying that it's his birthday, and this is his birthday present. And they come and they park themselves on the front lawn and play Happy Birthday for Scruff Connors. And
Wow.
he just did all this sort of stuff. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, he left us with all these great stories. I had his boy on the program.
Yeah.
Who has also been on the air at Hits FM.
That's right.
And then he went back to Winnipeg, and now I think he sells real estate, to be honest.
It's not an unfamiliar
It's
radio
maybe that's a
story.
smart move.
Yeah, well, yeah, it
You got your license yet?
Not yet.
Shout out to TJ Connors. Okay.
Yes.
So here, let me quickly, because you mentioned the word Ridley, so let me just quickly give you courtesy of Ridley Funeral Home.
Oh, yes.
You never know. Like, keep this in your, I don't know, in your car or somewhere. You never know when you have to measure something, right, buddy? So, Darryl,
Ridley
this
Funeral
is,
Home tape measure?
You got it.
Oh, wow. That's a weird sort of promo item for a funeral home, isn't it?
Yeah. You know,
All right.
it's,
I like it. Thanks.
you know, people seem to dig it, though. It's like
yeah.
maybe they figured out what people actually need. But Ridley Funeral Home, so you're Alderwood. That's
Yeah.
obviously New Toronto, but still, that's the same neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Have you been to a funeral or two at Ridley?
Yes, far too many. That's like all of my family. That's where everybody, all my aunts and uncles and grandparents.
You gonna be there one day?
Maybe. It'll be up to my wife. We'll see if she can be bothered.
Well, if you're there, and again, hopefully this is not for many, many, many years, I will make the long walk to 14th and Lakeshore to pay my respects to the fallen FOTM.
Very nice. Nicely done.
That's a promise. Hey, and here, this is Mississauga and Oakville, but kind of West End, but Palma Pasta. They make the most delicious, authentic Italian food. I have a frozen meat lasagna in my freezer for you.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much. I can't wait. I hear it's fantastic.
You're going to be letting me know shortly. It is really fantastic. Absolutely. That's the best word for it. Fantastic. There's a stickeru.com Toronto Mike sticker for you. You can
nice.
we'll find
Thank
it.
you.
I know Barks put his on his amplifier or something, but we'll see where you put yours,
Yes,
Mr. Henry.
It'll get a revered spot somewhere.
Now, it's chilly here by the lake. They say it's cooler by the lake, but this is a toque,
Nice.
courtesy of Canna Cabana.
Wow. Okay.
Canna Cabana will not be undersold on cannabis or cannabis accessories.
Lovely toque. Thank you. Is it
Be nice
made
and
of
warm.
hemp? Can I smoke it?
You can smoke it. Yes,
right.
absolutely.
That's
I don't know if
great.
it's made of hemp, but you can definitely smoke it.
Very good.
Cannacabana.com to find out where they are, but there's 100 locations across this fine province, and you can become a member of the Cabana Club if you go to cannacabana.com, and you'll be made aware instantly when there's a sale going on. Just a great program. So you do that. And last but not least, again, not quite Alderwood, but like Alderwood adjacent, down the street from the Costco in South Etobicoke here. Great Lakes Brewery.
Yes. See that. Nice.
Fresh craft beer
Yeah,
you're
I'm
going to
looking
take
at
home
that.
with you. Darryl,
Wow.
listen, tell your friends. You get taken care of on Toronto.
Even
Mike.
if you're number 1026, I'm impressed.
No, especially
I
if
see.
you're episode 1026. This is like when you think of it as a whole, when I'm done episode 10,000, you'll say, I got in on the first 2,000.
You know, you're right. That's what I'm going to tell my grandchildren. Thank you, Mike.
All right, so you're at the White House of Rock
At
in
the
St.
White
Catharines.
House of Rock.
And again, those who don't know, and I don't know how you can't know, but this is sort of a Q107 vibe in terms of what they were playing at the time. But it's hard rock.
Oh, we were better than Q by far. I mean, we had Scruff for one. We had a great air staff, Christy Knight. One of the all-time
KK.
greats. KK. She's on Giant FM. I listen to her every day. She's still one of my very favorites. And we were actually broadcasting from it was an old white mansion that with the William H. Merritt House, and he was the first guy who designed or built the Welland Canal or some crazy
Wow.
thing. And it was part of the Underground Railroad. It was sort of an end stop for a lot of that part of history. And I remember working all nights. People were telling me that it was haunted. So I'd go, I'd put on the long version of the Friends of Mr. Cairo, which was about 15 minutes. And I'd go spooking around looking for, ghosts and things in the attic or in the basement. No, never did see anything scary. But it was a beautiful old White House, and there was a lot of spirit. It was really the spirit of rock and roll. The Bird worked there for a little bit. I don't know if you remembered the Bird. He was on Q.
Okay.
It was...
Did he have another name?
John Kempf, maybe? I forget.
Okay,
He went to St. Louis and Vegas. He had a
Okay.
really good career. But we were sort of like the, David to the Q107's Goliath, and John Gonzo Mark, Gonzo.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great radio station. I was there for 4 years, and that was a ton of fun.
And who's the gentleman passed away? He had the afternoon drive there. I listened to Gone Far Too Soon.
Oh, that was after me, but Reverend Randy. No, it wasn't. It was he was from Buffalo, an American fella.
We're gonna do this, okay?
Yeah.
Here, so
Yeah, that was after I left.
after you left,
Actually, just after that he got there.
okay, I'm thinking actually of Iron Mike Benson.
That's who it is. Yeah, you're right. That's who that
So
is.
Iron Mike Benson, I would hear him do an afternoon drive. You had this great voice, and he would be there again after your time there. But gone. I think he got sick and died very far too young.
Yes,
but
he did. Yeah, it was very
great
sad.
loss for the station.
Yeah, and for radio, he was really talented.
Iron Mike.
Yeah. So that was a really fun time. And of course, I was in my 20s, and we were presenting every rock act because they all came through St. Catharines or Thorold or Welland, so Kim Mitchell and Lee Aaron and Chalk Circle and all of the big names from that era. And we'd be there every night pretty much, we're in our 20s, and our GM was Greg Slate, Gary's brother, and he would always show up. He'd put his American Express Platinum card on the bar, and we could just go up and help ourselves. And
the good old days.
Yeah, and one of us would have to bring the band on, and usually the rest of us would go just for support and for fun too. So
I'm surprised you played Chalk Circle, because that was more of a new wave sound.
We played all that.
Okay.
Yeah, we were. It was pretty broad. Yeah.
All right. That we're only 4 days removed from the day of the year I always play Chalk Circle, because April Fool.
Yeah, that's right.
Was their big hit.
Yeah, it was a big one, but they were a good band. Although they were one of the few bands I remember they didn't like you coming on to introduce them. They were a little above that. So you had it was no fun, because you'd have to go up and say, Chalk Circle in about 15 minutes. So thanks for coming out, everybody. And you felt like a bit of a knob doing that. But it was great fun. Yeah. Great fun.
First concert I ever saw was Chalk Circle at the Ontario Place Forum.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. I don't think I chose it. It was sort of like it was chosen for me.
I see.
And, I think once you got on the grounds, it was free to see the concerts at the Forum, as I recall. But okay,
that's correct.
So what was after Hits 97.7?
So after Hits was Montreal. So it was owned by Standard, and the PD at CHFI in Montreal, Jeff Fiddler, had an opening in middays. He'd heard me and talked to Eric, my boss, and next thing I know, I was being offered this gig, and to my mom's chagrin, she was happy to have me back, close to home, but I couldn't pass it up. It was middays at CHFM, which became Mix 96, and it was right downtown Montreal, and a chance to live in one of the great cities of the world, which was great fun for 5 years.
Yeah, I always thought, there's this is early reporting here and not confirmed, but my daughter has been accepted to McGill, and she's like, it's right now, it's the front runner, wherever she's going to take her talents to Montreal, but wherever she ends up going, but there's like a good chance now that she'll be spending the bulk of the next 4 years in Montreal. And I was thinking like, oh man, like I'm going to be spending some time in this city, and it sounds like a cool place to visit.
It's so much fun. And it was, St. Catharines had its own vibe. It was a very work boot sort of GM town, which was cool. It was all, chicken wings and beer. Right. And then I'm going to Montreal. It has a Subway again, and it's it's all about bagels and French food and smoked meat, and so it was like the total opposite, but it was great fun, and your daughter will love it. It's a great place to live, and we had a really good radio station there, and that was a fun experience too.
So what happens after your soiree? That's the word I'm looking for. You're the French guy.
Well, soiree.
Soiree. That's
yes.
My mouth doesn't make those words. That sounds. But you're in Montreal, but you come back.
Yeah, I'm in Montreal for 5 years, and it's funny. I'm just getting ready to. I was my mom had been sick a little bit, and I thought, you know what, I got to get home. I've only been visiting for 5 years. So just as I was thinking about doing that, I get a phone call from the guys who were launching Easy Rock, and they were looking for a new air staff for that radio station, 97.3. Telemedia had just bought it. And sure enough, I ended up going for an interview and getting the job. So I was able to come back home. It was funny. It was like divine intervention.
Okay. Quick question from a listener, and I won't name the name because this person wants you to guess their name. This is a really embarrassing, awkward moment where you can't guess this name and you feel awful. So you ready for that? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I'll serve it up.
I've had many of those, Mike. I'm good at it.
Okay, Mike, you have to ask Darryl Henry who his favorite Habs fan is.
Oh, it's got to be Lori.
Okay.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Yeah, there you go. Lori.
I was worried you would never get it, and then I'd feel so awful for Lori.
Oh, no.
And then in post, I'd be
Lori.
going, Lori, like I'll stick it in.
No, yeah, right. No, yeah, we go back and forth on Facebook talking hockey all the time.
Okay.
Because I make fun of the Habs. I couldn't. For 5 years, Mike, I had to pretend I liked the Montreal Canadiens. And one of those years, God damn it, they won the Stanley Cup. It was the hardest thing I ever had
93.
to do. And then Terry DeMonte, our morning man, damn you, Terry, he outed me on the air. Luckily, it was almost near the end of my tenure. But I had to pretend that I liked that team for 5 years and live through their Stanley Cup win. That was
and that
really
was
hard.
That was the last Canadian team to win a Stanley Cup, and that was supposed to be ours.
Yes,
that was Toronto's
That's
Cup. 93.
The Wayne Gretzky Gilmore high stick.
Right.
I know.
Goal scored. Speaking of Paulie Moore's goal scored by number 93, Doug Gilmore.
I
That's
think
all
I
I
do.
got.
Can I do my Paul Morris?
Yeah, it's got to be better than mine.
Toronto goal scored by number 27, Darryl Sidler. Assist to number 7, Lanny McDonald. Yeah, I think I've done better. But
He's still
I've
with
had a
us.
cold.
I just want to say,
Yes.
if anyone can hook me up with Paul Morris, I would like him on Toronto Mike while I can get him there.
They've played him at the games a few times. I've heard over the course of the season. I guess they have him in the can
Yeah,
somewhere.
because he was there till they moved to the ACC, and then Andy Frost took over.
Yeah, Andy. But yeah, it was a great time in Montreal, except for having to pretend I liked the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, I can imagine. You didn't. I mean, it was up to you, but I know Strombo never pretended to like. I mean, he's from here, which makes it even worse, I suppose. But he's always, loves rubbing it in the Leafs fans' faces that he's a Habs fan.
Well, there's a golden rule of radio, Mike. It's the number one golden rule
Right.
of radio, and that
Oh,
radio
you know who else
rule
did it?
is.
Yeah, sorry, tell me.
Sorry, it's know your audience,
Right.
and when you know your audience, you know that you
Right.
better love the freaking Montreal Canadiens
Right.
every time you talk about them in Montreal.
I know my buddy John Gallagher.
Oh, God.
Do you have any John Gallagher stories? Barker and him don't like each other.
No.
I learned, but there's a lot of guys I find out
John's
don't
a
like him.
character. No, I don't know him well. I didn't work with John.
But here's a guy. He's on. Not only is he on Q, but he's on City TV doing
Yeah.
Sports at Night, and a proud Habs fan through it all. Like,
yeah, that's true. I mean, you can get if it's truly who you are and you're not obnoxious.
Well,
about
he's from the Maritimes, so I feel like he's
So,
got
yeah,
some.
that's okay.
It's okay, I
Yeah.
think, if you're from that out from down east or
But
whatever.
Trust me, Montrealers don't like Torontonians as a rule, and I would certainly not like, especially if I was to say something ill of the Habs.
Terry DeMonte was there until very recently. Like this
Yeah.
is, and I know he started a podcast. I put him on Humble and Fred, and I got the whole story there. But isn't that the gig that Jay Michaels has left for?
Yeah, Shome.
Right.
Yeah, so when I was in Montreal, our morning show lasted about a year or so. That was Karen and Dan Wilmot.
Okay.
He's in the Molson Canadian ad where it's "This is our beer," and your neighbor is a Sens fan and you're a Leaf fan. He's the dad in the Boston Bruins jersey. I don't know. Anyway, that's Dan. Hey, Dan. And
Hey,
he
Dan,
was
how
our
you
morning
doing?
man along with Karen Evans, who became a great friend of mine. She's now down in L.A. as a talent manager. Anyhow, they didn't work out. So they ended up, it was a big deal. It was a blockbuster. We stole Terry DeMonte from Shome. Terry and Ted Bird. Terry and Ted. And so Terry and Ted were our morning show for the rest of my time there. So,
Wow.
And then I think he did end up going to Calgary or something, and then he went back to Shome, which was where he started. Shome is the rock, the legend, the Q107 of Montreal.
Right. Now I got a little clip. This is really short and it's potato quality,
Oh,
but
good Lord. Do we really have
just a little bit here.
Okay.
All right.
The station with Toronto's real show for lovers, Delilah. 97.3, Easy Rock, The Temptations with Just My Imagination. It's 3:35 with Darryl Henry and Andrea Roos. I was just doing some calculating because you are a vegetarian. I am not, and therefore I'm less healthy than you.
Exactly.
According to you. And
I never get
just
sick.
doing this calculation. Look at that. You've taken off twice as many sick days as I have this year.
No.
So just a little taste of what you could enjoy there on the Easy Rock.
Yeah, me and Ruzy, that was great fun. We were a team for quite a while, and we had great laughs. We're still best of friends.
Good.
Yeah, well, that wasn't a bad break, although the time check was maybe superfluous. But
It is, and it's. I don't know how the recording could be that awful, to be honest. Like, how did this person record it on the moon? You know what I mean? Like, this is not that long ago.
No. Where did
Because when do you get to night? It's on YouTube. Like, if you search for,
yeah.
it's literally
Really?
the only
Wow.
taste of Darryl Henry.
Well,
on Easy
I'm
Rock on
surprised there's
YouTube.
even one taste. That's fantastic.
So what year is it you joined Easy Rock?
95. Or I'm sorry, 90. I was.
90.
No, wait a minute.
No,
I'm
because
all
you were in
balled up.
Montreal for
Yes,
the
Montreal 90
Stanley
to
Cup.
95, and
Right.
then 95.
Even I know your bio better than you do.
Yeah, you
Darryl.
do. 95. So that's when we launched Easy Rock.
Right.
And it was crazy. It was telemedia. They had a big station in Montreal called Cité Rock Détente.
Okay.
And that was a monster station.
Yeah.
So they tried to emulate it in Toronto with Easy Rock. And some of the things didn't quite work. Like we took their jingle package and translated it. And one of the jingles was, "It feels like you're running your fingers through my hair. I love Easy Rock." And I remember we all looked at each other when we heard these, and we said to my boss, "This is Toronto, we don't want anybody touching our hair.
But that I Love Easy Rock you did there, I remember that so well. Like
Yeah.
maybe there was a lot of TV ad campaigns and stuff.
Well, and it just stuck in your head. Like it's what 4-0. Yeah.
Easy
It became one of those, what do you call it, mnemonics or whatever.
Sure.
And it became the sort of the signature. The station, we scuffled. I think, because they tried to translate the French product into the Toronto product, and it didn't quite work on a few levels. And of course, CHFI was a gigantic monster, and nobody was unhappy with CHFI, so there wasn't really a need for another AC station in town, but we stuck with it.
Okay, now this is all fresh in my head because, you mentioned 1050 off the top, and I talked about Scott Carpenter. I should also mention that there's going to be a special episode 1050 of Toronto Mic'd. That's all I can say right now. But there's going to
1050.
Yeah, see what I did there?
Yeah.
I did the same thing with episode 1021.
So
you see what's going on here. Okay.
CFNY.
CFNY.
I'm an old school guy.
Right. So Marsden was on that one, et cetera, et cetera. But okay, so the 1050 episode hopefully will feature Mike Cooper, who dropped by like about a month ago.
Yeah, I watched that one.
Yeah, so then there was a lot of chatter because it is at Easy Rock where Mike Cooper is paired up with Aaron Davis.
Yes.
To gun for CHFI.
Yes and
No? Close enough? No, tell me.
So what happens is, so we're scuffling, we're not doing that well, and we finally abandon the telemedia model, and we hire a guy named Brian DePoe, who's a great friend of mine.
I had an email from him recently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I probably know.
I would love to read it on the air, but I don't know how he'd feel about it. But it was in response to the Cooper episode.
Yeah. Well, so Brian came and he put he's one of the smartest guys I've ever worked for. He's really strategic, the attention to detail, and he put into place a lot of the fundamentals of good AC radio, which we weren't really doing before.
Right.
And another stroke of genius. Everybody thought it was crazy at the time. Lisa Gibbons became our spokesperson on television.
For sure.
And then we went all Christmas. We were the first station in Canada to do that.
Hey, pause for a second. So this Lisa Gibbons thing, was there already a syndicated show of John Tesh? Like, what came first? Because these were old school Entertainment Tonight viewers will know these are a couple of OGs.
Yeah, that's right. Right. No, I don't think John had his show yet. The big one, and we carried it, was Delilah. I mentioned it in the clip. And she was out of Seattle, and she was all like touchy-feely, lovey-dovey.
This is like Candlelight and Wine kind of
Yeah,
vibe,
there was a real, mellow, but it was good. She's very good. She's like, if you were to take Howard Stern's talent to connect one-on-one and put it in a 45-year-old frumpy woman, then you'd have, because she could really connect with the audience.
Right.
She was, and we became number one in evenings with Delilah, and that began the evolution of us from being this sort of mid of the like we really were an afterthought ratings wise. And then Brian took over. He did some of these things. Delilah was a big hit, and then CHFI blinked. They put Mad Dog and Billy on in the morning because they thought Aaron and Bob were too old sounding. They tried to make themselves sound younger and hipper, and it was a disaster. And not that it was anybody's fault. It wasn't a good fit with the audience.
That happens.
And so we became number one. We actually took over number one from CHFI shortly after they made that change with their morning show. And at the time, our morning show was Mike and Christine.
Right, Christine Cardoso.
Yeah, still a dear friend of mine. And we were riding high, doing great. And then Christine went on mat leave. And when she went on mat leave, they auditioned a few people to be Mike's co-host. And Ruzi got an audition, Jane Brown, a few other people. But Erin, who was she was ready to move back to Kelowna, from what we understand. The story I hear, and I hope I'm not stepping on any toes,
let's hear
was that Gary Slate wanted to poke Gary Miles in the eye, the big standard guy wanted to poke the Rogers guy, and he said, no, let's bring Aaron Davis on, which was funny because Aaron hated us when she was at CHFI. She would openly make fun of us on the air all the time. And I remember thinking, who are you? Come on. So anyways, it was a little odd, but that was what Gary Slate wanted to do, apparently. And so she comes over, and she and Coop, they didn't get along at first. But after a while, it worked. And from my understanding, that's when Sandy Sanderson, who was a big deal at Rogers, at CHFI and 680, Sandy said to Julie Adam, there's your morning show. And
okay, so interesting, because my feeling is, again, this is only from having numerous conversations with people like Aaron Davis and Mike Cooper and stuff, but it sounds like CHFI tries to get Aaron back. Like Julie Adam, whoever, I don't know. She seems to wear this one, but who knows who it was. But and then Aaron says, okay, but I'm bringing Cooper with me. Like this, it sounds like this might become like an Aaron Davis demand for her to return to CHFI.
I heard it differently. I heard it was the two of them. Like they were great together. And
so why is it though? Why did it take? Why at the beginning did they not love each other? Because I think that's something that I've only recently realized.
All of us were a little cheesed off at Aaron for having made fun of us on the air. Like, I mean, that who does that? It's not very nice. So I think we were all in when she came in and she was, bounding and happy. And it was like, wait a minute, but you hate us. Why? What is this? This is kind of a
She's
fake.
like, all's fair in love and war.
I guess. And so I think there was a little bit of, everybody wondering what's going on here with Aaron. But, before long, I had come to see that she's a total pro and was all in with us. And they sounded great. And the next thing we knew, Rogers had stolen them from underneath our nose. And they, and they righted that ship. They went back musically to where they were before they hired Mad Dog and Billy. Like, it seemed like they took a big step backwards to what they used to be, which was, AC radio's got to be kind of dull. You know what it is? It's like that worn out old pair of slippers, and every year somebody gives you a new pair of Christmas, but it's like, you know what? I'll keep the bill and take it back because you like those old comfy slippers. And so every time AC tries to get sexy or it tries to get hip, it usually backfires. And this time they fixed it, and then they went back to the old ways musically as well as, on the air with their talent, and kaboom.
Right. So what was it like? What was it like at CHFI when the morning show leaves to go to the competition? Well,
that was a hard gulp. It's like, oh, okay. But Brian found a great replacement show, Stu and Colleen and Marianne the op, and they were fantastic, a great show. They're great people, still friends of mine, and I thought every bit as good. And but just they were new to the market, except Stu. Stu Jeffries has had some with Good Rockin' Tonight.
Good Rockin' Tonight.
That's right. So he had some name recognition. And Colleen had been on cue, but it was just the Aaron and Mike thing was. See, CHFI had such tonnage. Their audience was so big and deep that even when they stumbled and maybe made the wrong call with Mad Dog and Billy, and they shed some audience, it didn't take much for it all to come back. I remember Neil Mather, my good friend, he was our music director, and he said, Darryl, when we were number one, he said, we're number one now, but, after everything CHFI has done wrong, there's still only that, a smidge behind us.
It's so tough to catch these heritage stations.
It is.
Like, there's so many examples, but even how long did it take for sports radio 1050 to knock on the door of 590? Like, just 590 haven't been in that market for so much longer. And there's a lot of examples like that. I know Indy's been knocking at the door of we mentioned CFY of Edge 102, or is it one? You know what it is? Technically, I believe it is 102.1 The Edge, but for a brief period of time in the mid 90s, they were going by Edge 102, and it got imprinted in my brain as Edge 102, and I've been saying it that way ever since. But I digress. But yeah, it is so tough to catch these heritage stations in this market.
You really have to stick to your knitting, do what you do it well, and then the door cracks open a little bit, and you're able to jam your foot in there, and that's what we did with CHFI when they blinked and made their changes. And TSN 1050, same thing, because the fans scuttled Bobcat, and they made their changes, and TSN had been doing a good job, and then all of a sudden now they're in the driver's seat.
It only took like 15 years.
It took a long time.
You just got to be patient.
Yeah, that's right.
And keep at it. But okay, so Aaron Davis and Mike Cooper leave Easy Rock for CHFI.
Yeah.
Mike Cooper kisses the ground every day that Aaron took him along for the ride. This was a great windfall for him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was.
Fair to say.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, Mike, was a great disc jockey. He was my Toronto radio hero when I was realizing that's what I wanted to do for a living. The 510 stupid joke of the day. It had 1 million people listening to it, which is unbelievable, back at 680 CFTR. I remember once he introduced, I forget what honkin' record it was, but it was 680 CFNTR. I mean, Coop was Coop. He was a classic. And but as a morning man, he didn't, Key 590 was his first morning job. Oh, you've got what is that?
Evelyn Mackel gave this to me.
That's fantastic.
I won't open it up because I think it's supposed to be like a towel or something.
Oh, it's with a CFTR 680 logo.
But I just like it's like keep that. Whenever someone mentions 680 CFTR, I can bring that out.
It was a great radio station, and Coop was the best. And but as a morning man, like I say, it didn't really, Key 590 didn't work out really that great for him. And then, he came over. He wasn't Easy Rock's morning man at the beginning. It was Terry Michael, and he was the co-host with Terry. Okay. Terry is so sad. We lost her a couple of years ago in a car accident, and she was great. But Mike was sort of the sidekick, and so when this happened with CHFI, from what I gather, he was finally given his due in a financial sense, and also kind of he was on CHFI, the legendary CHFI, working with Aaron, who was established as one of the greats, and I think that must have been very satisfying for him.
And I mean, it's only, we'll get to this because we're going to get you to CHFI, but it's only very recently that Mike Cooper, because he leaves, he comes back, but it's only very recently that he left seemingly for good CHFI, but that's very recent news. But okay, so let's get you there. So why does it end for you at Easy Rock?
Well, I still don't know to this day, Mike. Well, it's a typical radio thing, right? You don't know. It's a subjective medium, so... Right. A new boss comes in and they hear something that they have somebody else in mind or whatever it might be.
Sure.
I mean, I was doing middays at Easy. They were the top-rated day part of the station. The station was doing pretty well. They were looking to flip at that time. They knew they were going to change format and go to this boom format. Right. But I knew the music and stuff. I used to do an oldies hour at noon or whatever, and blah blah blah. But we had a new guy in, Rob Farina, who'd been at Chum FM, and I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he thought it would be good to have an ally there, and in May, and because he'd worked with May at Chum, and May had worked at CFNY, so you could say she has that cred with a lot of that 80s music and stuff.
Right.
And so one day I went into work and was told by the GM, "Hey, can you come see me?"
Well, there is no shame in being replaced by Maypods.
No, exactly. So, and they say when I first got started, someone told me, you're nothing until you've been fired 3 times in radio.
Okay, so is your morning show, because you mentioned Stu and Colleen, but then Stu's let go. Even though he's there now. It's all very confusing because I should fully disclose I produce the Humble and Fred show right now, but Humble Howard Glassman is doing mornings. There was there's a whole thing with 4 people. And this is and then it's down to 2 people, Colleen and Howard, and that's who's in place when it flips to Boom. I believe.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. There had been Humble, Colleen, Kim Stockwood, and Rick Hodge. So we called it the 4-headed monster. So it was a pretty big room. But they had fired Rick and Kim just before me. And that's when I thought I was getting called into the office to be told that they had just fired. But no, it was to fire me also.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey, whatever. It's all.
Well, I'm sorry, but at some point you do land at CHFI. So how long are you between gigs?
6 months. So 6 months, worried. I'm thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to get my real estate license or something, because I didn't want to pull up roots. We'd had, our daughter was about 4 years old, and I'm from here, and I don't want to do that up and down the dial thing anymore. I don't want to go to Edmonton, no offense, Edmonton, or wherever. So then I get this phone call from my good friend Tish Eiston, who says, there's an opening here, give Julie Adam a call. And so I did, and it was me and Jeff. He ended up going to do evenings at Boom. I forget his name. Anyhow, and
Kogan?
No, Jeff.
Why did I say Kogan?
I forget, but
okay,
I get it. And he ends up going to Boom. But luckily, I had people in my corner. So Coop, Gord Rennie, even Aaron. They were all saying to Julie, "Yeah, bring Darryl over. He's a good egg." And so
Jeff
I started.
Spindle?
Yeah, that's who it was. And so I started that coming up to 12 years. It'll be June of 2010.
Okay, well, firstly, that's amazing. Secondly, Tish Eiston, in my brief experience with her, it was just wonderful. Like, she's just like a ray of sunshine.
Absolutely.
Great attitude, great voice.
Oh, beautiful.
I mean, you have a great radio voice yourself, but man, that Tish Eiston, that's next level. Like, what the heck?
She creates a mood. That's something that every disc jockey wants to be able to do. It's very, very hard to do. But when you listen to Tish, it was like you're, having a coffee and a warm hug with, that favorite person in your life. She is exceptionally talented. I wish she was still working with us, but that's the way the cookie crumbles.
That's the way the cookie crumbles. So I do have some more CHFI questions for you, but first I have a question, and I didn't write down who asked this question, which is awkward, but I'm to ask you about Elton John in London.
Oh, Elton John in London.
Well, that's verbatim what I was sent, but if they got the city wrong or they got something, you tell me, is there a story anywhere with you and Elton John?
Yes, there is. It's a bittersweet story, Mike.
Oh, so I'm buckled up here. Let's go.
I was asked to do an interview with him on the release of his album Peachtree Road. So it's going probably back about 15 years or so. He was doing the residency in Vegas at Caesar's Palace. He took over from Celine. So I go down there. My lovely wife, she comes with me, and we're given this DAT machine to go and to record the interview. I'm nervous as hell because it's Elton freaking John.
Of course.
And he's also the tantrums and tiaras guy, so maybe he's going to rip my head off. I don't know. And so I make sure I bone up on this album. I listen to it backwards and forwards 10 different ways, and I wrote these questions. I really worked hard on it. So we get there. Oh, I also brought a bottle of HP sauce because I'd read somewhere that he was missing HP sauce. And he lives in Atlanta and he couldn't find it. And in Vegas, he couldn't find it. So I thought that'll be the icebreaker.
Yeah, that's a smart move.
Thank you. So we get up
giving you lasagna.
Yeah, exactly. We get through to the elevator at Caesars and we go up to the penthouses where he lived during this residency. And we're waiting in the hall. And we can hear him, David! He's yelling for his husband, David.
Right. Furnish.
The Toronto lad. And we're looking around. It's like, wow, this place is like palatial. So finally, some handler or someone says, okay, he's ready to see you now. So we walk into his magnificent, dining table area. And it's Elton. This is Darryl Henry from the Toronto station. Oh, Darryl, it's lovely to meet you. And I present him the HP sauce, and he's totally blown away. He's going, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. Darryl, thank you. I've missed this. Oh my goodness.
It's great.
So we sit down, and we get the DAT machine set up. And I hit record. I don't know if you've ever worked with DAT machines.
No, never.
Yeah, there's a reason why no one works with DAT machines anymore. So we hit record, and I'm like, the needles are moving, the VU, it's good. And then I couldn't focus on it anymore. My wife is there, and she's also noticing it's fine. It's recording. And so we sit down, we start the interview, and it goes great. And he's telling me towards the end, he goes, the last interview I had, it was from Dutch TV or something, and they were just asking me about the sex clubs in Vegas. And, Darryl, thank you so much. You're asking me about the album, and you're asking me about Gus Dudgeon, and it's wonderful. Darryl, thank you, Darryl, and thank you, Canada. And I'm going, wow, this is like the highlight of my career.
Yeah.
And it's so great. And afterwards, he gives us a tour of the place, and he asks us if we want to pop, and he shows us where he's got his CD collection and his dogs and everything. So we get into the elevator, and we head down to the room, and we said, we got to listen to this back. And we were put on play, and it stops 10 seconds into the interview.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it didn't record any of it.
Oh, my God. Yes, I knew that's where this story was eventually going, and still I'm shocked.
Greatest interview of my career.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you, Darryl. Thank you, Canada. From Elton John. So it's not there. And now, as a sidebar, this was for Sound Source Radio Network. It was a standard broadcasting thing. They would put these shows together, and then they'd send them out to radio stations, right?
Right.
So I was left. I've been flown down to Vegas, put up. I got tickets to see his show, and I don't have any interview.
Yeah.
So luckily, the person who followed me was Sonia Benezra, who at the time was at Musique Plus. And she interviewed him, and then after that night at the concert, I went and I said to Paul Jessup, the record rep, I said, I'm going to talk to Sonia. Can I get her audio? This is what happened. I need audio for the Sound Source thing.
Right.
And Paul goes, go talk to Sonia. So Sonia very graciously gave us her audio. I cut it up, pretended it was mine. We got the Sound Source special recorded and done. But yeah.
Did they ever know, or did they ever find out?
I did. Yeah, I told Gary Matola, the great producer.
That is like and that's like my worst nightmare.
Oh yeah.
Because it's one thing if it's like, okay, Mike Wilner's on this show, because you can be like, Wilner, can we do that again? And he'd probably do it again, you know what I mean? But this is Elton John in Vegas. Like, I had this 20 minutes of Chuck D. Oh, wow. And it would be like, okay, like this one shot at this, you got Chuck. I know that's my Elton John story, but I got the recording. That's the good part.
Oh, yeah.
It worked. It sounded fantastic, but there's always that thought like, oh, you only get the one shot on this. It adds that extra layer of anxiety. This is a big deal. And yeah, that's wild.
Oh, that was the worst. In that elevator, the pit of my stomach, I just felt it again. When we found out there was nothing on that tape other than the first 10 seconds. Oh.
So do we know, like, do we know, like, did it run out of tape or something? It's some technical glitch?
It's just some technical glitch.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, I wanted to.
And is this the day before is this an age before smartphones? I don't know how far back.
Yeah, this is probably going back when
you can't have a backup thing running in your pocket just in case.
No, we didn't have any. No, so it was before all that.
Because today you could do the thing and then you'd have you'd have a couple of different things going today probably. But that's awful, buddy.
So sad.
That's awful.
But it was and the concert was great. And Sonia Ben Ezra, thanks again. I owe you.
You sure do.
That was, and he's probably the biggest guy I've ever interviewed too. So
that doesn't get much bigger.
Yeah,
it's funny with all this. What happened at the Oscars? So in our family, we always have like, who's the most famous person you've met? Like had a meeting, meaning that you had some kind of a one-on-one exchange, and ideally a photo or whatever. So my answer is still Chuck D. Okay, I'm sticking with that because I had the 20-minute chat and we took the photo together, and I really got to meet him. I met Chuck D.
That answer is not going to change as of right now. Okay,
no,
all right,
definitely not.
I'll take a back seat to Chuck D.
Definitely
That's
not.
cool.
Yeah,
That's fine.
You're going to have to.
I'll be number 2.
But my daughter Michelle, who's the one going to McGill.
Yes.
Probably. She had a conversation and a photo with Will Smith.
Wow.
Who was in town because his son was doing a movie. And Michelle and her girlfriends were kind of in that neighborhood watching this because they were Jaden Smith fans. And then Will was there and he walked over to meet them and Jaden met them and there's some video. And anyway, so cool. Forever we're like, no matter what you can't beat that for like a global, like unless you can meet Obama or something. Yeah. But it's funny that it's like we've been kind of giving her a hard time. Like, oh, so how's your buddy Will doing? Like, what's new with Will?
Right.
But that's her answer to that one. Okay, so I want to hit you up with some CH. I know we have a We got Brad
beer
Jones.
to drink.
We got beer to drink,
Yeah,
and
man.
Brad Jones from Ridley Funeral Home is coming to pick you up.
Oh, jeez. Not
Well,
yet.
so it goes. Not yet.
No.
So CHFI.
Yes.
Tisha's no longer there.
Yeah.
First question is, and you've been there for what? Since
12
12 years now.
It'll be
Well,
almost
it's a good
12,
run
yeah.
here. So firstly, Gord Rennie was recently on the show, so let's say hi to Gord.
God bless Gord.
Is he a good guy?
Best in the business and a great guy. Like, that's a pretty killer combo right there.
And he's now he's technically producing a couple of FOTMs at 640. He works with Greg Brady and Kelly Catrera.
Who
so
I
shout
love.
out to
Yeah.
Gord Rennie. Yeah, speaking of CFNY, Kelly was at CFNY. Kelly took over for May Potts when May Potts left 102.1 for Mojo Radio.
Yeah.
Shout out to Spider Jones, who I'm talking to tomorrow. Okay, so Aaron Davis and Mike Cooper.
Yeah.
Mike Cooper leaves because his wife is ill.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible story. We heard that from Mike because she's passed on since, but we heard that from Mike recently here. Then they bring in from it's so incestuous, but they we talked about how Rick Hodge went to Easy Rock, and he was replaced by Darren B. Lamb. Mm-hmm. And Darren B. Lamb was then poached from Chum FM, 104.5 Chum FM, to take over for Cooper. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. At Easy Rock. No, sorry. At CHFI. I knew I'd screw that up. So here we are. Aaron Davis and Darren B. Lamb. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, Aaron moves out west.
Yeah.
And we've kind of covered that a great deal.
Yeah.
And now they bring in Maureen Holloway from Q107.
Yes.
And it's Darren B. Lamb and Maureen Holloway.
Yes.
Fast forward, blah, 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 blah. Okay, suddenly Darren's not at work anymore, but he's still like on the name of the show. Mm-hmm. But Darren's not coming to work anymore. Can you tell us anything about the mysterious disappearance of Darren B. Lamb on CHFI?
We weren't told anything.
Nothing.
No, so it was very mysterious. It was the strangest thing I've ever worked through in my 38 years. And I worked with Scruff, so that says a lot.
That's true.
I have never seen anything
That's
like
true.
it. He just vanished, and the management didn't tell us a thing. They also didn't tell the audience really much of anything.
That's true.
And I felt terrible because CHFI is a special place. The audience is it's more than just a box playing songs. It's part of the fabric of their everyday, and it has been for generations. Their mom listened to it, now they do, now their kids. So I thought we did a bit of a disservice. Not really. Maybe we couldn't. Maybe the hands
there
were
might have
tied.
been an HR thing.
You
with,
never know, right? But even anything that would have said, we can't say, but here's what we can say, or whatever. But
or you could say that you can't say.
Or you can say that
because then
you
I'll
can't say.
stop getting the emails. Because you know who suffers? I'm the one who gets the emails,
Yeah.
Darryl. Just so you know.
Oh, and we did. I mean, people, like I say, this station's a part of their lives. It's not
Right.
just, like the place where they hear music. So we never found out. I've never found out what happened.
Right.
Never. And I felt really bad for the audience and for the people in that room, Gord, Ian, Mo, and Christine, because they have to deal with it every day. And, of course, dealing with the texts and the phone calls and the Facebook messages, the audience wondering, what's going on? Why aren't you saying Darren? Saying, where is Darren? Blah, blah, blah. So it was very, very difficult on them. And it was really not a very, very fun year, I don't think, for them especially, and for us and for the people who listen to us.
And Mike Cooper comes back
Mm-hmm.
to kind of co-host with Maureen Holloway because
Yeah.
Darren's not there. And then at some point, the whole show is gone because Gurdeep and Pooja are the new CHFI morning show. Have you met them yet?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I'm not sure who's at home, who's in the studio. Are you you're broadcasting in the studio?
Yeah. We've always been in studio, even through the hardest
And also
part
your
of the lockdown.
time slot is a little off for them. Like their mornings, your evenings, right?
I get in there Friday morning because I got a countdown show to do and this and that and
Gotcha.
the other thing. So I do see them. We cross over there. Nice people. I think Coop said it best. Way too good looking for radio.
Right.
They have faces not made for radio. Way too pretty.
Right.
And handsome.
Well, breakfast television is in the family. so.
Right, exactly.
But I am now seeing on my bike rides billboards across the city with
Yeah.
Gurdeep and Pooja's face on it.
You got to get the word out, because otherwise, how would people know? So, especially if they've got a following, and I'm sure they do, people will look at that and say, "Oh, good, you got to market it." So I'm glad we're doing that.
Now, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's a tough transition. I mean, a new morning show is a big deal, and for like our audience and for them too. I mean, television and radio are very different animals. So.
Well, we wish them luck.
Oh,
They
gosh,
seems like they're getting all the support in the world because they got a new producer, and they got was it Blair Bartram who's the
Blair Bartram, that's right.
and they
Yeah.
got this big billboard campaign, which I
Yeah.
know a lot of radio people would die for, and so guys like me will bike around and see their faces everywhere.
That's
but
right. It's fun. They love each other. They're great friends, and so it creates a nice, fun atmosphere on the air.
were you friendly with Maureen Holloway?
Oh yeah, I actually knew Maureen from my time in Montreal.
Oh.
And so when she was coming over, it was pretty exciting and pretty cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I like Maureen.
Yeah.
I like Mo.
she's a straight shooter.
Have you heard from her since this all went down?
Well, Christine Cardoso got into a car accident back in November,
Okay.
and she's fine now. But it was a little, it's never an easy thing.
Right.
So we were in touch over the course of that. Same like with Ian and Gord, just I was letting them know what was going on from Christine's end, because she wasn't able to text or that for several days and whatnot. So yeah, we were in touch over that time, and it sounds like she's doing just fine. I've heard her on CFRB and on 1010 in the last little while. So, she's a great broadcaster, and I mean, if she still wants to, I hope there's a place for her. Radio needs people like that.
Well, she's so good. I can't imagine she won't resurface somewhere.
I hope so. Yeah.
Whenever she's able to. Who knows what's going on with the paperwork? Who knows? I haven't reviewed them yet, so I don't know yet. All right, and there's another name I want to ask you about, only because she lives in my hood.
Uh-huh.
So New Toronto. Shout out to Michelle Butterly.
Oh yeah, Michelle. Love Michelle. One of my favorites, and she was my competitor for many years. She did middays at FI, still does, and I was doing
Right.
middays at Easy Rock, and
Right.
I would curse her name because she would often beat me. But she's lovely people, and she's a great announcer and a great person.
okay, this is your opportunity, Mr. Two First Names, Darryl Henry, to tell us when can we hear your voice on 98.1 CHFI?
Okay, Friday night 6 till 9, Saturday morning 8 till 2, and Sunday 8 till noon.
So even my notes are out of date because I've got you Fridays 7 to 9, but you get an extra hour now.
Yeah, they changed the hours for the evening show, and it's now 6
I
to
got
9.
us change that website too, Darryl. Come on, is that your job?
No. Okay, I'll have to get them on that. That's surprising.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I got my copy and paste here. It says 7 to 9.
Yes.
But and tell me a bit more. So the now and then countdown.
Yeah, that's a fun thing. They introduced that when Tish was doing the this weekend morning shift, and what it used to be, there used to be a best of Aaron and Mike show that would run Saturday mornings, and then there was no more Aaron and Mike, so they figured we need a specialty show, so they put this countdown in there. So they pick a year.
Yeah.
So the now is the current top 10 in Toronto, and then the then is whatever year. Like this past weekend, it was 2008, I think, and we just count down the top hits that we were playing back then.
See, I like this.
Yeah, it's cool.
Like this is my kind of thing. I like it. Kind of like you go in the time machine and take you back to what you were hearing on this, this
I won't
week.
lie.
And
It's a ton of work, Mike. It's a ton of work, but it's fun.
Okay, but now this begs the question: when you're not on the air and you've got your own, Darryl Henry personal time.
Yes.
What kind like are you a jazz guy? Are you a heavy
funny you
metal
say
guy?
that.
What are you into, man?
When I'm at home, when I'm not listening to CHFI,
Well, of course, that's the greatest station on the planet.
That's right.
Everyone knows that.
I'll have Jazz FM on. Heather Bambrick is great.
Love her.
Yeah, Brad is great.
Yeah, he's from the Pursuit of Happiness.
That's right. And so I'll have, and I like jazz, so I'll have that on. There's a station, I like oldies, and there aren't pure oldies. I mean, Boom isn't really anymore. They're playing a lot of Q107 90s, trying to attract that audience. But in
you
Buffalo,
mean Bon Jovi?
Yeah. Or collective soul. I can't, the 90s just left me cold. Anyhow, WECK in Buffalo, I listen to them online on my smart speaker. The Big Weck. I don't know if you know what a weck is. Do you know what that is, Mike?
Oh, I know what a wick isn't a candle.
No, weck is, have you ever heard of beef on weck?
No.
Okay. See, Buffalo's known for wings, but it's also known for beef on weck, which is sliced roast beef on a weck roll. Weck is as a bun.
It's a bun.
So they're very clever. They called their station WECK. So I'll listen to them online because it's American, so it's all the oldies.
And do they play bread? That's what I need to know.
You know what they actually do? They actually do play bread. And you know what? I actually like bread. I'm
thinking. I found this. Yesterday. Yes, was it yesterday? What is yesterday? Sunday. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Saturday, I think I'm going to walk in this neighborhood, and some neighbor has got like a suitcase full of 8-tracks that they're putting out. And I just took a photo of it because it's like, oh my God, it's a suitcase full of 8. Every time I hear bread, I think like, what a great 8-track that would be.
Yes, absolutely.
But I take a photo and I tweet it, and somebody replies, can you hold on to that for me?
Yeah.
Like he collects like found media and he's excited. So I grabbed it because no one else took it, shockingly enough. No one else can play it.
I'm going to grab it.
It's in my shed, man.
Okay, I'm going to go
You're going to have
get
to fight this guy for it.
That's pretty cool.
So found media. But yeah, Brett. So, okay. So the Jazz FM thing, shout out to Ralph Benmergui, who used to have a show there. And now I produce a show for him and he still shows up there now. But yeah, I know a lot of the people there at Jazz FM.
It's funny. The ratings have always been soft there. Classical 96 kicks their can. But I don't know why. But, sometimes I do. There's a little too much talk for my liking on Jazz FM. Just saying, whoever's running it, less talk.
But
just play the
they're
jazz.
Public broadcast.
Well, not really.
Well, they're not like CBC public broadcaster, but they're like fundraiser. They can't air many ads. Right? They have a fundraiser.
They can only air about half, I think, per
something like that.
If you don't know, but we are strictly, we were only allowed to sell 12 minutes an hour or something, and I think for them it's 4 or 5 minutes an hour. So they have to get the charitable component.
And I should here. Hold on.
Oh, the record collection. Mike is pulling out.
This guy's big on the fundraisers for Jazz FM.
Oh, James B.
James, do you think James B is famous?
I do.
Yes.
Absolutely do. I remember when Ralph was the morning man. So I listen to that. I listen to the Big Weck. I love KJ and Stu at Boom. I love John Moore in the morning on CFRB. I worked with John in Montreal, a good friend of mine. Christy, she's the best rock jock in the country, I think, and she does middays at Giant FM, Niagara Falls, 91.7.
Cool.
So yeah, that's what I listen to when I'm not listening to CHFI.
All right, before we wrap up here, I'm going to ask you about something. So I got a neighbor a few doors up from here who is born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
His family is from Croatia.
Okay.
Last World Cup, as usual, a big Croatian flag is flying outside of his house. He's always wearing the jersey.
Looks like a tablecloth.
He's Yes, it does. He's a diehard Croatian soccer fan, passionately rooting for Croatia, and they did they did very, very well. Like, is that the last World Cup or the one before? Anyways, they went to like the semifinals or finals, and they had a great run. Anyway, Canada is slated to play Croatia in the World
group?
Cup. Yeah, they're in the same group, and they have a match scheduled for whatever that is, late November, early December, whatever it is. And I was asking him, and it sounds like he's going to fly that Croatian flag and root for Croatia. Like, what say you? This man, again, he's mid-40s or so. He's born and raised in Canada. He's as Canadian as maple syrup, but he's going to root for Croatia when Croatia plays Canada in the World Cup. What say you?
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of that this time around, right? I mean, except for the Italians. I live, in Corso Italia, so they're not going to be a part of it this year. But I think, the Portuguese fans, Brazilian fans, I think they're all going to be sort of torn between two lovers.
Yes,
Feeling
like a fool.
Like a fool.
But this is different to me in that you can root for Portugal and then maybe also Canada. But these direct competition,
True,
same
in the
group. Like there's
Yeah.
a conflict. You need to pick one.
There might be some issues in the neighborhood, Mike. Yeah, I'd say batten down the hatches.
I think that stinks. Like to me, I think it stinks because in a head-to-head, if you would root for yes, your parents came from Croatia, you could be proud of your heritage. No, there's nothing's wrong here, except that it's now directly colliding with Canada. Where you've chosen to live your life and raise your family. I just think that you need to root for Canada.
I still see people walking around with Montreal Canadiens jerseys on in our city, and that, that offends me, but I'll be all right.
Well, that's because they're Montrealers who came here for jobs.
Right, so they should cheer for Toronto, just like you're saying
That's
the Croatia
different.
guy.
That's different. No, because he's born and raised in Canada. His parents can root for Croatia. Okay.
That's the
if I move now to Rome, I'm going to cheer for Canada when they play Italy in the next World Cup, not this one, because I'm a born and raised proud Canadian. But if I was born in Rome, I would probably root for. Anyways, that's all ridiculous, but none of it means anything except John, my neighbor John, should be cheering for Canada in that match. And I'll be watching closely, giving him a hard time.
All right.
Darryl Henry, this was thoroughly enjoyable. Are there any stories you said to yourself on the drive here, I want to tell this story, but you did not tell, because I will bring down Lois the Low if you wanted to tell that story.
No, there is a few more Scruff Connors stories, but, they're legendary, and I'm sure other people will tell them. But, yes, it was fun, Mike. This was great. Now I'm going to go drink beer and eat lasagna and measure something with my funeral home measuring tape. That's
Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home.
Yes, Ridley. Beautiful.
And that brings us to the end of our 1026th show.
Woohoo.
You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Toronto Mike. I was going to ask you about this because you have a Twitter account that you don't use.
No, I'm not a big social media guy. I find
you just
it tedious.
gave up on it.
Yeah, just tedious.
So there's no point in following Darryl Henry T.O.
Not really. No, I don't.
Still going to tag you on these.
If my job requires me to do it, I will do it. But really, I just can't be bothered. You know what? I've been posting social updates for 38 years. That's what I do for a living.
Right.
I've had the radio to be able to say to people, hey, I baked cookies today or whatever. And that's what I love about my job. I'm able to talk about me and my life.
No, I'm hungry for cookies.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I didn't, by the way, bake cookies. I'm lying, just lying.
He's a liar, everybody.
That's right.
Our friends at Great Lakes Brewery are at Great Lakes Beer. Palma Pasta is at Palma Pasta. Don't leave until I get the lasagna out of my freezer.
Yes.
Sticker U is at Sticker U. Ridley Funeral Home is at Ridley FH. And Canna Cabana are at Canna Cabana _ See you all tomorrow when my guest is Spider Jones.
Everything